The international break is fully upon us. We spotlight Florida as an emerging pro soccer club hotbed, and we compare the opposite communication styles of the American and Canadians head soccer coach. That and more on Fridays. Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to a morning kick around, the show where we cover the world's game from the United States of America. My name is Robert Kerr, local soccer guy. Next to me, Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. And together we do morning kick around on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays live and on demand on the Morning Kick Around YouTube channel. How you feeling on this fine Friday morning there, Mr. Davis?
Well, it's Friday. We got that going for us, which is nice. We also have a U.S. men's national team game coming up this evening. We'll talk about whether or not I'm still enthusiastic about said game. You know, things have changed a bit on that front. We're going to talk about I'm fascinated by this very, very interesting comparison of communication styles between the U.S. men's national team head coach, one Mauricio Pochettino, and the Canadian men's national team head coach, Mr. Jesse Marsch. That should be a fascinating discussion. And by the way, shout out to all of our ultras. Those of you who are here this morning, I see Spencer is here, says he's got to run at some point, but can't say for the whole stream. Got Stratcom class. What is that? That sounds incredible.
Strategic communications, I'm assuming.
Maybe that's perfect for today's show with Marsch and Pochettino. He's got Stratcom class stuff to do, but much love, appreciation for the work. Thank you, Spencer. Much love to you for being a MK Ultra. Jonah, probably. Andy is here as well. Shout out to all you guys. We'll get to your comments and questions as we work through the show.
Yeah, shout out with that in mind. MK Ultras, Victor Castro Lopez, Andy Arriaga, Mark DeBlois, and Eric Wilkerson, all brand new MK Ultras this week. So thank you, gang, for joining in. And we got plenty to cover today. If you want to support, become an MK Ultra yourself, subscribe, doesn't cost you a thing, or just tell your family and friends.
Yeah, dot the map. That's the whole thing. Like this is what we're trying to do. And obviously we're very excited to dot the map of American soccer with clubs, and we're chronicling all of that. We're watching all of that. We're going through a process right now to get you an inside look at some of the clubs that are popping up across America. Like at that thing, the ability to sort of in real time watch a club take each step on its way to getting on the field and playing competitive soccer. I'm really excited about that. Shout out to Thomas, who's a new member. That's already making Friday awesome, is that we have a brand new MK Ultra. But yeah, dot the map. We put together a map of where our ultras are located, where they're based. If you are in the Discord, throw up your location and you will get on the MK Ultra map. And the more dots we have, the happier I am, Rob. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, let's make this map as cluttered with pin drops as possible of all the MK Ultras scattered across the country. Thank you, Thomas Dupree. Everyone out there, take an example from Mr. Thomas and become an MK Ultra. Are you ready for the show?
Well, hold on. We're going to have to, since we're here and we're doing this work and it's Friday and we're having a good time, let's just go. I want to show the map. I want to show the MK Ultra map real quick. And Thomas, you'll have to tell us where you're located so that we can add your dot to the map. This is where the Ultras live. This is what they represent. They're all across the country. Now, you know, we got that big area. I'll call it the Louisiana Purchase, which is a little empty right now. But other than that, we're doing pretty good, right? We're pretty solid.
I'm happy that we have someone in Louisiana, honestly. I mean, look at that dot in that southern coast. That's nice. Have plenty of room to fill in. There's meat on the bone, as they say. There's room to grow.
Yeah,
no low ceilings here.
No, we got plenty of space in California. We still don't got any representation from my hometown or from San Francisco. The Bay Area is kind of a wasteland right now. I know somebody in Vegas is out there that can become an ultra. All of Arizona, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana. I'd like to get an ultra from every state. That would be a good way to go. Where's Montana at, says our man Mike Thomas. Where is Montana? I know there's soccer fans up there. Next thing you know, we're going to hear about USL working on a stadium in Billings or something, or Bozeman or something.
Yeah. That's a good shout about that. And you got to get your sister on the horn, get her in the MK Ultras, get that that dot in
I do.
Idaho.
I got to get my sister to be an ultra. That's a good idea. She's in Boise. Andy, shout out to Andy. He needs to have a dot. I will add your dot, Andy. I will right after the show, Andy. I'm gonna get to it. I promise. I promise. Let's go.
All right, let's do the show. Let's get to Friday's edition of Morning Kick Round. Let's do it. Welcome in, long ball number one. I'm Robert. He's Jason. The Caveat Kings are back at it again. We all got excited about the big names coming into camp. There's been some mixed groups for the United States men's national team, and we saw Pulisic, Robinson, and others that we're excited to see, but those names, Pulisic, Robinson, and Zendejas, not in training. So all the fervor of seeing them all play together tonight might be in vain as they were not training.
Look, we had Christian Pulisic last month, and that went well. Weston McKennie wasn't there, and there were some things missing. Jedi Robinson wasn't there. Serginho Dest was there. Now Serginho Dest is not here, but neither apparently is Jedi Robinson. Probably not going to play today because of his lingering issues that have limited him at Fulham. I mean,
should our siren be up for Jedi Robinson here?
I think there is some concern. I have seen some writing on his issues, and he's struggled quite a bit with those injury problems. Hopefully, this is not long term. You'd rather not play him and get him ready for the World Cup and all of those things, and then rather than risk him. I mean, Paul Tenorio wrote yesterday at The Athletic about a dead leg. That's what Jedi Robinson was dealing with. He was dealing with a dead leg. He had a knee injury. He said it's really been difficult missing games, to be honest, because we had some disappointments this year. Obviously, the U.S. men's national team had the Nations League and the Gold Cup, and those things that Jedi as a leader, I think, really does push for that team to win trophies. Not being able to bring them home was disappointing. So he is still figuring it out. Fulham in the U.S. tried to manage Robinson's workload to deal with the pain. Doctors and surgeons confirmed the injury likely wouldn't heal completely without surgery, so he had that. He had developed something called tendinopathy. I'm not a doctor, Rob.
Not a doctor, but that sounds bad.
So, will he get back to full strength? Again, don't know. Didn't train yesterday. Christian Pulisic, you know what? If he's got a knock, if he's dealing with something, fine. Hold him back. I'm not going to get too upset about that choice, other than to say it's disappointing that we're not going to see him in the team that now has Weston McKennie back in it, that still has Balogun, who seems pretty confident, rolls in with a bit of steam behind him. Obviously, Tyler Adams is not here for his own personal reasons, not injury, but because he's about to have another kid. And then Alex Zendejas, who scored a very nice goal last time around for the national team, is also apparently dealing with something and might not play tonight. So, look, there's good and bad. Now, I will say this, Rob, it kind of does prepare you for what the World Cup might be, because when has any team ever had every single one of their first choice guys ready to go 100% full of confidence and form going into World Cup? It just doesn't happen. So let's deal with it.
Yeah, it's like a solar eclipse. All the stars can't align all at the same time. That happens so infrequently, and that just leans on why the importance of depth is so much. You got to have 30 guys or so to really be able to rely on, because it seems that the top 11 or 18 are almost never going to be healthy at the same time. And one of the things, I put a question out there on the community page of the Morning Kickaround YouTube, like, what are you most looking forward to? We got some answers. Curious about seeing Malik Tillman play, and who's going to play at the 6. I really wanted to see Dest and Robinson play at the same time. There was a brief window where both fullbacks were healthy at the same time, and this United States men's national team was like an exciting team to watch during that. They actually had some options going forward, and they were able to penetrate down both sides, and that was exciting. So disappointing that we're likely not going to see that, but Serginho Dest back in the team, really excited to see that. But going back to the viewers' replies to the community post, I was excited to see that Aiden Morris is back in the mix, because he seemed like a player that the national team would benefit from. And I'm glad that he is included in the list. But the viewers comment, who do we think we might see at 6? Who do we want to see at 6? Tanner Tessman or Aiden Morris?
Yeah, look, I'm a fan of Aiden Morris. However, I'm not sure he's the guy that Pochettino will turn to. This is my this is kind of like, I guess, what I want to see, but also my best guess of what this might look like tonight against Ecuador. Again, like there's some really guessing. This is guessing. Okay, freeze, no problem there. A back line of Reem, Richards, and McKenzie. Anybody got an issue with that based on what we know? I mean, it could be Riles Robinson, I suppose, but I think McKenzie probably has a leg up. Arfston on the left with no Jetta Robinson. Freeman on the right with no Serginho Dest. I don't think those things are controversial, even though, again, they're not the guys we want to see in those spots if we're playing our best team. McKennie and Tessman. I threw Tessman in there. I think McKennie probably goes back into the starting lineup. I got Malik Tillman in there. I don't know if that's controversial. With no Pulisic, is it Diego Luna and Balogun? Is it Tim Weah and Balogun? What does it look like? Right? I don't know. This is my best guess at what we might see tonight. But I'm like 30% confident that this is what it's actually going to be.
Yeah, I think this is a realistic look at what we might see tonight. Interesting that Max Arfston has creeped into the fold as one of the higher people in the depth chart at those positions, and seeing him live a few times now. He is an exciting player, world class, yet to be seen, but he does seem to be improving. Have we seen McKennie and Tessman play together before?
No,
I'm not.
No, that's the thing. We're in some uncharted territory here when it comes to what this might look like. I mean, I'm looking at other people's lineups. People are on the internet, writers making predictions. This one's got Cameron Carter-Vickers starting at center back. I don't see that, but again, maybe that person is right.
No matter how good CCV may or may not be, getting absolutely sliced and diced for the club whenever you face a decent opponent isn't a good sign. At least not for confidence, at the very least.
Yeah, I'm not a massive CCV fan to begin with. So this is just, again, we're kind of guessing as to what Pochettino might do, whether he wants to see somebody get some time against a pretty decent Ecuador team. I mean, they're missing some of their big guns. Moises Caicedo is not there. Piero Ngapié is not there. There's a couple other names that are missing for Ecuador, but we know they're going to play. They're going to play fast, and they're going to try to beat you with their speed, athleticism. The counterattack is going to be a thing. So midfield has to be on point, and there's not a natural number 6 in this group. Aiden Morris might be more of a 6 than Tanner Tessman, but I just wonder if Pochettino is going to try to find a balance between McKennie and Tessman that might work. And McKennie, you want to push him up high. There's a lot of things that are just unclear to me about this group this evening. Christian Roldan's also in there, and he could do a bunch of different things, but I don't know, Rob. I just don't know.
Yeah, do you think that if you saw this lineup that you just put up on the screen, if you saw that go into a competitive game, where would your confidence meter be?
I mean, I think I would still be pretty confident they can put together a decent performance, but it wouldn't reflect what I think is the best the U.S. can offer. So again, if they get to the World Cup and that's what the lineup looks like, some of us are going to be like, okay, I'm not completely sure about this. And it depends on the competition that you're facing as well.
And then one of our loyal MK Ultras throws in a question while we're on the topic. What are the odds of seeing Big Pat? I'm guessing he's talking about Ajamang.
Yeah.
He sees him coming in for 20 minutes if trailing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd see why not, right? It's a friendly. Even if you're not trailing, throw him in for 20 minutes, give him a look, give him an opportunity to go bang around and force some things to happen. He's a different look than Fowler and Balogun. They play very differently, so why wouldn't you do that? Give Pat a look and see what he can do in there. Again, I think there are some pieces that could be swapped out pretty easily here. And I'm not even sure. It's not that there's not some quality difference between these players in some regards, or at least my opinion of them and their quality could be different from player to player. But if it was Aiden Morris instead of Tanner Tessman, would you be like, I can't believe he picked Aiden Morris over Tanner Tessman? No, same thing with Christian Roldan. right? They're the center backs. Miles Robinson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Mark McKenzie, not so much Ream and Richards. Those guys are pretty solid, at least in terms of our perception of them as starters. But some of these guys, like if it wasn't McKenzie, if it was Carter-Vickers or Robinson, would I be like, oh my God, I can't? No, I probably couldn't say that. So that's where we are with this. I mean, I think outside of the fullbacks or wingbacks in that situation, because it's a back three, I'm not sure there's anything that's like written in stone with this. Maybe Balogun's a start and Freeze in goal, but that's it. That's like 4 spots where you're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, hard to say what exactly they will look like, but we shall see tonight. Switching gears only slightly with it being the international break, we'll go to the U20 version of the United States men's national team. They advanced with another impressive victory. U20 USA team beat Italy 3-0, a brace from Kramaski and Nico Tsakiris scoring in between for a 3-0 victory to progress the United States to take on Morocco in the quarterfinal.
Yeah, look, this has been a very interesting tournament for this group. They beat France 3-0. They started out with a big 9-1 over New Caledonia. Then they beat France 3-0. Then they fell to South Africa in a game that felt like a letdown. Some rotation from Marko Mitrovic, the head coach. So maybe not playing his best team, knowing they were already going to advance. They end up winning the group, I think, because of head-to-head with France, who was also on 6 points at the end of it. They get the draw against Italy, or they are drawn against Italy in a round of 16 because Italy finished second to Argentina in their group, and you're thinking, uh-oh, that might not be good. But they take care of Italy. They were the better team all day. It took a while for them to break through. Kramaski gets the first off of a set piece, kind of a recycled ball, gets just in the right place, very goal poachery of him. Then you get the Tsakiris free kick, which was to the near post, around the wall, left-footed, probably a failure on the part of the Italian goalkeeper, but a well-placed free kick from Tsakiris, and then Kramaski with the garbage time goal as Italy was trying to push to find something in this game. This team has some heart. They've got some players. I don't want to do this thing where I think, oh, look at the future of our national team. It's so good because this is in the moment. There could be a couple of key national team players in this mix for the future, but it's good to just win this because it's worth winning. So if the United States can get past Morocco, and there's no guarantee of that, but if they get past Morocco on Sunday, they'll have gone farther in this tournament than I think they have since the 80s, back when maybe the rest of the world wasn't as intent on winning this. I mean, you do have to keep in context, though, that especially France, lots of their best players aren't in this team because they're actual senior level players for their club sides and just weren't going to get released for this tournament. But it's interesting. Mexico's over there against Argentina coming up tomorrow, I believe. That'll be a fascinating game.
Yeah, I was going to say they've had plenty of history playing at the senior level, definitely.
Yeah, Spain and Colombia, and then Norway, France. So the U.S. could face France again in a semifinal potentially if they can get past Morocco. Look, I'm just very, very. It's very cool to see this run. Kramaski turning into an absolute goal threat is something I'm not sure I saw coming. We'll see if he can keep that going when he goes back to Italy after this tournament is done. But I'm just thrilled. This is just fun. Let's just not make this about anything other than here's a good group of young players who have put it together. I will say, though, and if you can find this on Blue Sky, Matt Doyle from MLS soccer.com saying, if you connect the dots, you can see how the start of MLS academies really fed into helping develop these players. And that rather than sort of a one-off, the U.S. has been consistently good at this level. They have not missed the quarterfinals of a U20 World Cup since, I think, 2015, something like that. It's been 5 in a row or whatever it is. Count it back 5 times now. Thank you to Jonah for reminding me. It's 5 times in a row making the quarterfinals. And again, there is a potential roadblock in France, but you've already beaten them. You can, and you were better than France. So why not go on and find a way to make a final and potentially win this whole thing?
Yeah, these youth level national team tournaments are such an exercise in like context and hedging your excitement. While it is amazing to see, any level finding success, but it's also interesting that they've reached this part of the tournament multiple times. but haven't, won it ultimately. And other teams have won these youth tournaments, but they don't necessarily turn that into senior level success as well. But obviously, nice to see some success for the red, white, and blue in any capacity. And maybe, they kick on and go a while longer in this tournament. Turning to this weekend, Fab Four, our tradition on Friday mornings, the 4 top games of the weekend. A little bit different with the international break. We like to spotlight all the stuff happening in North America, and for the large part, they are in the United States or United States adjacent. So the 4th pick, always the chat. We've got some submissions for the Fab Four in that morning Kickaround Discord server, and that's something that Thomas, you will gain access to here shortly as a brand new member. For all you watching, be like Thomas, become a brand new member of the MK Ultras, and
you can find. Look, I think you can still find a good link for the Discord on the YouTube channel. You just on the page. You have to find the members only posts, but the Discord channel link should be there. If it's not, I will repost it.
And so, the chat gets to chime in for the 4th pick, and the MK Ultras get priority there. But Jason, start us off. What is pick number 1 of the Fab Four for the second weekend of October?
Why? I mean, I hate to go right back to the same well we were just drinking from, but I'm going to pick USA Morocco in the quarterfinals of the U20 World Cup down in Chile. I mean, again, as we pointed out, making the quarterfinals 5 tournaments in a row, but this is the barrier that has always been there. This is the moment when the tournament has come to an end for those past teams. Again, if this is a different kind of group, if they have an ability to find ways to win games, and again, I think they've been better than everybody they played, even with the loss to South Africa, they should be able to go out and beat Morocco. And they should be able to go out and make a semifinal. And then again, you wait for the winner of that match between Norway and France, and you see what happens. But this is a big moment for this team, and I'm really excited. I mean, this is an international break. The U.S. plays tonight and on Tuesday, the senior team. You've got some MLS. I'm not super into UEFA World Cup qualifying right now. It just doesn't feel all that important to me. So on Sunday, I'm going to go find this game. I'm going to watch USA Morocco in the U20 World Cup.
Yeah, it could be an exciting one. Morocco, another up-and-coming power in world soccer. Interesting to see what their under-28 team looked like. I can't imagine you've ever seen that team before, have you?
No, I don't think so.
Not watching a lot of Morocco.
No,
I can imagine.
I mean, they made a semifinal of an actual World Cup, so let's not look past Morocco. I'm not trying to do that.
No, I'm not doing that. But
if you've beaten Italy and you've beaten France, you should be able to beat Morocco, but you got to bring it.
Only on paper do those things matter, Mr. Davis. But my pick for the Fab Four, because it's international weekend, we got to poke around a little bit and see what games of note are on the calendar. And I'm bringing it close to home. Detroit City FC taking on Loudoun United. It's the final home game of the season for Le Rouge. They are trying to round out their 2025 campaign, getting above 500. They're currently 9 wins, 8 draws, 10 losses, 1 goal to the negative for goal difference. They're -1 goal difference on the season. So Loudoun United, not, just a couple places above Detroit City FC, typically lower down in the league, but having a decent season. Loudoun. So Le Rouge hosting Loudoun on Saturday afternoon is my pick for the Fab Four this weekend. And for the 3rd pick, what we usually want to do is bring in producer Jenny and bring in her pick for the
If Jenny's
Fab
internet
Four.
will cooperate this morning.
Tell me about it. Oh my goodness. It's working right now, and that's all that matters. So
Do you have some leaves on your roof or something?
I guess. I don't know. But since it's working now, I'm going to tell you about a playoff 6-pointer in USL League One. Charlotte Independence hosting our friends over at AV Alta, former guests of the show.
Jenny,
the leaves just fell onto the internet, and she cannot be. All right. Well,
if you didn't hear that, Charlotte and AV Alta, at least we got to hear the pick at the very least, not the explanation or any context, but Charlotte and AV Alta in USL 1, the 3rd pick of the this weekend's Fab Four. Going to the Discord chat nominations.
What we got
for the 4th pick in the Discord? We see USA versus Ecuador, of course. Hearts of Pine versus Knoxville getting more than one shout. Sacramento versus Hartford. Ryan shouts out Riverhounds versus Indy 11. And then another shout for Portland Hearts of Pine versus Knoxville. So I don't know. Can we do a Fab Four on an international break without putting in the men's national team game? Or do we go?
We can do that. We are allowed to, we can choose that we can make that choice. And I think it's a reasonable and defensible choice. Not that I'm not watching tonight. I'm watching tonight. I'll have a beer, watch the game, keep it in context. But there are more interesting things happening out there. I mean, come on, playoff seeding battles, 6-pointers. Come on, those are more important than a U.S. friendly in Austin against Ecuador.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess there's always like I said at the top of the show, the caveat kings. I always get excited for the games, but there's always something that dents the excitement when it comes to the national team's games. I don't know if I'm alone there, but it's like, oh, they're playing this game and it's all exciting. Oh, but they're playing on a wax surface, or they're playing
245 days, 245 days until the United States men's national team kicks off the World Cup. Just reminding everybody where we're at.
And is there any competitive fixtures in between here and there? Is there
competitive? Leagues? No, we don't have to qualify. Why would there be any competitive game?
I didn't know if they're throwing some nations
like the Christmas tournament or something, or like
random in there.
No, the Spring Fling U.S. men's national team tournament. They would still be friendlies. They'd still be glorified friendlies. No competitive matches. This is all about working it out in the friendlies.
Even though there's a lot of talk about, we're in the next year. That's a lot of days between now and the real deal. 200
It's some days. It's some number of days, Rob. You are correct.
Every day feels like a week or a month these days. So that's
every day is a winding road, is what you were going to say there, I think, is what you were
down the winding road we go. But thank you, everyone, for chipping in for the Fab Four. Portland Hearts of Pine versus Knoxville, Charlotte versus AV Alta, DCFC versus Loudoun, and the U20s USA versus Morocco are the Fab Four for the second weekend of October 2025. Thank you to the MK Ultras and viewers for getting into the chat here this morning. If you want to be like our brand new member, Thomas, $3.99 a month gets you access to the Discord server, early access to videos, bonus content, and much, much more. $3.99 a month. That's all it costs to be an MK Ultra. You can also support us outside of YouTube, coffee.com/morning kickaround if you'd like to support the show that way, or you could just hit subscribe. Doesn't cost you a darn thing, or just tell your friends, families, relatives, and acquaintances about Morning Kickaround. Help us dot the map of the American soccer landscape. Thomas saying that we got to throw in.
We're going to do it. Don't worry about it, guys. Don't worry about it. I'm going to get it up. You're going to be checking the YouTube channel, the members only posts. You're going to find the Discord link. Don't worry. Let's move on.
Don't worry about it. All right, we're going to come right back and talk about Florida soccer. Florida soccer. That's coming up here on Morning Kickaround. Today's hot topic on Morning Kickaround, we're going to focus on Florida. The Sunshine State is blowing up as far as interest and just expansion of American soccer. And the main credo of the show is dot the map, and Florida is doing its part to do so. We got a lot of active teams already, lots of expansion news. California holds the title, I believe, for the most pro clubs in a state, but Florida, coming up the rear to challenge them for that title. Lots of teams.
I'm gonna treat you like my 4-year-old Tiago, and I'm gonna ask you to count them. Rob, can you count? And let's do California first to compare it to Florida, because we know there's also a couple of oars in the water, potential possibilities and new teams in Florida. But how many teams in California? You want to count them with me? Can we do it? Can we do it? You think we can do it?
Instead of name the guy, we go name the team.
Well, I mean, yeah, name the team. I mean, how many do you think you can do off the top of your head in California to compare it to what's happening in Florida or anywhere else?
All right, California. Let's start with the Major League Soccer. We got San Diego, San Jose, LAFC, LA Galaxy. That's 4. And
That's
then we
4.
go to the USL Championship. We got Sacramento. Is there any other USL Championship in California?
USL champ. Well, Loyal is dead, so no, I don't think that does
Monterey
it.
Bay.
Yeah, Orange County. That's 6 right there. That's a USL championship team. Monterey Bay is a championship team or League One team. Monterey Bay, quick.
I think that's USL 1.
Oh, you're guessing. You don't guess, Rob. Check. Be be better than that. Be better than that. Okay. Whatever. They're a pro team, right? We're talking Oakland. Oakland's a championship team. I think we're up to 8 already, right? Including Monterey Bay. So, and we're missing. Who else are we missing? We're missing
AV Alta.
AV Alta. That's 9. So we got AV Alta. Who else are we missing? Are we missing anybody else? I mean, we're working on Fresno. We're working on a couple of other places.
Riverside.
We're working on Riverside. That's not a thing yet. Who else? I think that's it. Is 9 the number? Are we pretty close there? I think we might be close.
That's a big number.
It's a big number. All right, so we got 9. So let's look at Florida. Florida's got these are the top. I'm sorry, these are the men's teams in Florida, the professional men's outfits that are currently playing. Okay, remember this is currently playing. We've got Rowdies, Orlando, FC Naples, and the 2 Miami teams, Miami FC and Inter Miami. Right? I'm not missing anybody that is currently playing men's outdoor professional soccer. Then we have these are the what are they? The women's teams. I'm trying to remember how I did this. Or this is potential teams coming. I guess these are in process men's teams. So these are expansion teams that haven't yet started. So we've got Fort Lauderdale United, Sarasota, Sporting Jacks, and Armada. Armada is going to be an MLS Next Pro team. Sporting Jacks is going to be in USL. These are the women's teams. And by the way, we didn't do the women's teams in California. We should be doing the women's team in California too.
There's a lot of them there.
Bay FC, San Diego Wave, Angel City. We're up to like 12 professional teams. Who else is out there in California? Rob, do you have any more off the top of your head? It's a quiz.
We're getting quiz. I'm failing the quiz.
You're failing the quiz. All right. Well, there's no USL Super League teams in California at the moment, but I do believe Oakland Soul, which is a W League team, will be joining the Super League at some point. That's connected to Oakland roots. But I'm pretty sure we've got all 3 of the women's professional soccer teams in California. Now, again, these are the women's professional soccer teams in Florida. Orlando Pride, Tampa Bay Sun, Fort Lauderdale's got a team, right? And Sporting Jacks also has a USL team. And then a Super League team. And I think that's it. I think that's all I got. I might have missed expansion. Do we have any other expansion teams for the women's game in Florida, Rob? You mentioned okay, well that's maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe I'm blowing you blew this up. Talking Florida. What do we got for what's coming in Florida?
Coming in Florida, a few teams in Jacksonville. There's going to be actually the part of the reason that sparked this topic was there's a little bit of a soccer war going on in Jacksonville because there's going to be a USL team and an MLS Next Pro team in Jacksonville. You got the rebirth of the Armada as well as Sporting Jacks coming to USL on both the men's and the women's side. And earlier in the week, we talked about Tampa Bay, the Rowdies, one of the longest storied American soccer teams getting bought out. But there's also a women's team, the Sun, that's already playing there, but under different ownership. And then there's also news coming down the pike of not only Sarasota or Pensacola. Pensacola's coming down the pike, and then Space Coast, which is Brevard County, which is just east of Orlando on the coast. I guess I should have realized that they call that the Space Coast, but If they actually there's a youth
We're-
team there, and if they actually keep that for the pro team, what do you think of Space Coast FC as the name of a professional soccer club?
It's where Cape Canaveral is. That's why it's called Space Coast, right?
Oh yeah, I
Because
understand why, but
No, I'm just Rob, I'm just letting people know. I mean, maybe people understood that. I mean, I'm not trying to mansplain you. I'm just kind of putting it out there. Hey, why is it called Space Coast? That's such a weird name. It's where
because spaceships are.
It exists in space. That's why it's called Space Coast, I think, is probably what it. I'm okay with that. Yeah, Space Coast FC. I don't think FC, again, I have an issue with FC, but Space Coast something for sure would be great. And obviously there are lots of ways you can go with the imaging around a Space Coast team. As is always the case with these potential clubs, Rob. What we care about is that there's a legitimate plan to go from an idea to an actual club, and then that actual club will have some stability underneath it so it can stand the test of time and become part of the landscape and dot the map in a way that doesn't require us to maybe erase it off the map one day. That's all I would say about this. I don't know enough about Brevard County, about the Space Coast. My dad lives near Pensacola, but I can't tell you what the Pensacola soccer scene is like. That's obviously more on over there towards Alabama, what some people lovingly call the Redneck Riviera, Rob, is where Pensacola is.
That's funny.
What I read about Pensacola is it comes down to, can they find space? Like, can they find room to build a stadium? And again, we've already reported on USL and Justin Papadakis as their chief real estate officer, engaging in conversations with 70 different towns and cities about the potential of professional soccer, and this largely centering around the idea of building a stadium. Now, we have not taken issue, but certainly asked questions about that approach, right? The team in a box, or sort of, getting all these things together, like in Pensacola, where the reports are that the USL is spending $200,000 to do the research, to do the report, to take a look at this, to do the work necessary to see if a team can work in Pensacola, and maybe even to identify that stadium site. Is that the right way to go? It's probably better, though, especially when you're putting the stadium out ahead of this, than saying, hey, just start a team and play in that high school building over there, and we'll figure this out one day. And then 3 years, 4 years, 5 years in, the owner goes, no, I'm hemorrhaging money, I'm out. And the club disappears. We don't need that anymore.
What is in Pensacola to prove this a true statement? So the mayor of Pensacola, DC Reeves, says our city has proven that it supports professional sports and expect our community would welcome a new league and club to our town. What's going on in Pensacola that has proven that professional sports can be sustained there?
Well, they got a team, minor league baseball. This is always about minor league baseball, Rob. You just have you should immediately think, well, unless he must be talking about minor league baseball.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they have a minor league baseball team called the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. Thanks to Ryan, he's got the name right there on the tip of his tongue. The Blue Wahoos, which I don't know. That's not a name you forget. Is that a bird? A blue wahoo? It must be something like that. All right. So, have they proven that they can support pro sports with the Blue Wahoos? I'll leave that up to you. I don't know. I mean, it's an oceanside town. There are lots of things to do there. That's why sometimes it makes you wonder if pro sports really can work, especially when it's more of a, I don't say a vacation destination, but that's certainly a major part of their industry, right? Is tourism. And if you are that kind of town, does a sports team that is representing Pensacola work?
That's a good point. Has anyone visited Florida in the middle of the summer? A lot of places are kind of a ghost town, especially these coastal places. People, the snowbirds are the one of the biggest populations that inhabit these towns on the coast. And when do we play USL soccer? In the summer. And so we'd have to study maybe a little bit closer, see how Naples did with its I know they did well at the beginning of the season. I have to check back in to see if they had any dip or shoehorn sort of attendance during the hotter months, because it should be noted, and we haven't gotten to it yet, about the whole climate report regarding soccer. in the United States and across the world. And Florida, one of the hottest places in the country, adding these teams, playing through the summer. What kind of accommodations will be taken for it? I mean, was everything going to happen at night? Training, games, all that stuff? Because
while we talk about the possibility that Major League Soccer might flip their schedule over, USL has not said anything about doing that or committed to that idea. I mean, they don't have to follow MLS on that front if they choose not to, but it'll be interesting. I will note that Pensacola, while the town itself is not overly big in terms of population, 50-something thousand, and military town. That's a good point from Chris, because my dad, again, is ex-military, works for a contractor. That's why he lives in Pensacola. The metropolitan area of Pensacola is 500,000 people. So it's not that there aren't people who live there that might support a team. I think it's just about the marketing of it. It's about catching, just like any of these other cities. And really, we don't have to look too deeply into that. Like, I think we get lost if we're like, well, do they have the right population? And people have come at us in the comments in various places. Why are you guys talking about population? I do think you kind of need a base. Like, you can't have a town of 20,000 people and build a 15,000 seat stadium. Like, obviously you have to have some sort of matching there, but any town that has a reasonable population, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 in a metropolitan area in Pensacola, should be able to support these teams if you market it correctly, if you are doing all the things necessary to make the team work on your end as the club. You can't just start the team and put them on the field and expect people to show up. That has been proven time and time again.
Yeah, and we might get to the retort about European teams that are in tiny towns that have done really well. And yes, that is true, but they didn't start off with that big stadium there. They probably started with something a little bit more modest, and they, with success and time, grew into those small towns with the big stadiums. And a kind of funny thought for the Space Coast teams, maybe it could be a fun or a bad nickname, call them the Naughts, like they're astronauts, but it's kind of a double entendre because they're nothings. So maybe not a good nickname to call yourself.
Did you just create something? You had an idea, you presented the idea, and then you undermined your own idea all within about 30 seconds there?
Yeah, I might have done that. Some things sound good inside your head, but then once you put them out into the world, vocalize them, they might not be a good conversation. And like your squint, I know when I'm on a bad idea, I get a squint from you.
I'm actually not even against the whole knots thing, right? I'm not against it. Like
I'm tying myself into knots about this nickname.
As far as nicknames for professional soccer teams go, Knots is not the worst one. And I could see, ownership happening on the Space Coast of that name. But anyway, let's move forward. Let's charge forward, Rob.
So charging forward, are we still talking about Florida? Can they usurp California as the soccer professional soccer capital?
Because there's probably 6 or 7 or 8 other places in California that could support a professional soccer team if somebody wants to do it. I mean, again, we're going to see if Fresno gets off the ground. We're going to see if Riverside gets off the ground. We're going to see if who am I missing? I'm probably missing. I just saw yesterday Santa Rosa, California is considering possibly looking into professional soccer. Is it going to happen? No, we're not. That's not a guarantee yet. But Santa Rosa, not too far away from Napa. Napa has one of those Michael Hitchcock's teams that plays short season. Maybe one day they could go pro. There are lots of places like that, smaller towns that still have reasonable populations and could conceivably support professional soccer. I think California is going to retain the crown. It's a big place.
And of course, we're going to keep in mind that a lot of these announcements, like the Pensacola one, is USL essentially calling dibs on being able to negotiate and explore these possibilities before any other league. They're just kind of having it. They're securing communication rights almost in a way, rather than actually saying this is happening. Always important to keep that verbiage in mind, especially with this myriad of press releases coming out from USL. They are not all created equal. Some have stadiums and they're ready to rock in a year or two. Some of them are an idea that they're talking about. Thank you for chiming in on this, on the Florida topic. And thank you for some of the support in the comments, giving me a little bit of slack on my bad jokes. Apparently that was a Midwestern take that I did there, showing some Midwestern colors.
You have a lot of Midwestern characteristics, Rob. You know this already. We're not telling you something you don't already know. So
well, I appreciate the support nonetheless.
Nobody's saying it's bad to be from the Midwest. Nobody's saying it's bad to be like Rob Kerr. That's nobody's saying that. Just make sure that we're nobody's being mean, right? We're just saying you're very Midwestern. It's a fact.
Yeah, and even my English time was in the very middle of the country, so I was an English Midwesterner as well. I can't help. I was from the East Midlands, and that is like as quaint and laid back as it comes over there in the UK. But moving along, hot topic: Florida soccer. We'll see. Thank you for.
we were done, but that's okay. You've put a bow on it. Let's move forward. As I said, let's move forward.
We bow tied it. And we're gonna move right along. We're gonna talk culture wars in the United States men's national team. Would love another subscription or another ultra to join in this final segment of the week. So maybe think about it as we head into culture wars to round out this week of Morning Kick Around. Culture Wars here on Morning Kick Around. I'm Robert. He's Jason. As we are steeped in the mire that is the international break, we have a little bit of time to reflect and look at the different styles of these national team coaches. And right here at home, Mauricio Pochettino and Jesse Marsch, two coaches very familiar with, obviously, United States and Canadian coaches, taking very different approaches to their communications with their teams. Pochettino, in press conference saying he doesn't call guys, people get called in, other people get left out. It is what it is. For Jesse Marsch, he's traveling, seeing these players. He's making visits. He's making calls, home visits, complete opposites. What do we think of these very different communication styles with these coaches that we're working with?
Yeah, just to give some background here, a couple of different pieces at The Athletic separated by 4 days. The first one on Mauricio Pochettino, written by Paul Tenorio and Henry Bushnell, titled, "For Mauricio Pochettino, communication void with USMNT players is a feature, not a bug." It then goes on to talk about how Pochettino never calls players to explain roster decisions. He doesn't communicate with them much at all outside of camps. The radio silence is a stark departure for what many U.S. players experienced under Greg Berhalter, the previous head coach, but it cuts to the core of Pochettino's managerial philosophy and USMNT rebuild. And here's the quote: "The players don't need to know," Pochettino said last week when he was asked why he doesn't explain his squad decisions. Deep down, he believed they should already know why they were worthy or unworthy, and they should be, quote, "desperate to perform, to grind, to convince us to call again." Then you have the Jesse Marsch piece, which came out just today, written by Joshua Cloak of The Athletic, a guy who covers Canadian soccer for that outlet. And he's got a lead with a little bit of an anecdote about Mathieu Chonier. I can't get my French in. It's not good. Mathieu Chonier. I think that's about as close as I'm going to get.
I'm glad you took that on.
Yeah, he went over. He was in Montreal. He was an MLS player. He went in an all-star team. He went over to play for Grasshoppers in Switzerland. He was battling an injury over there in Switzerland. Regular playing time became less of a sure thing. Chonier was also expecting his first child and experiencing many emotions that come from that drastic change to his life. Jesse Marsch's paternal instincts kicked in. He wondered if his young midfielder might be struggling. He texted him, "I'm coming to see you in Zurich." So Marsch traveled to Zurich, not to scout his player, but to spend time together over a meal. He wanted to better understand his midfielder's headspace. Chonier let out all of his emotions in front of his national team head coach. Talked about Marsch told Chonier, going to Switzerland was tough for you, et cetera, et cetera. You don't really need to even read more of these stories to understand how very different these two approaches are to management in international football. And of course, what's interesting for us as national team fans, as U.S. men's national team fans, is what it says in that article about how it was very different under Greg Berhalter. Berhalter very much was a Jesse Marsch style head coach. He was an arm around the shoulder. He was a text message guy. He was commiserating with his team. There was that familial feel. In fact, they talked about the brotherhood during Berhalter's run as head coach. It seemed as though he was more their friend than their coach sometimes. Whereas Jesse,
for better or worse, for better or worse.
Whereas Mauricio Pochettino has come in and said, none of that works. We ain't doing none of that. You're not going to hear from me unless you're coming into the national team camp when you get your email that says you're coming. In fact, it is an email. It's not even a phone call from Pochettino. He doesn't pick up the phone and say, hey, you're into the national team. It is an email that says, here are your travel arrangements for you to join the national team camp. And I'm okay with that. Now, like, I definitely think it's like you can be of the opinion that one approach is better than the other, right? You can just make a qualitative judgment and say the way that Berhalter does it is better than Pochettino, or Marsh does it is better than Pochettino, or the other way around, right? That is, you can make that decision. Nate saying, I like Poch's approach personally. Now he says, this is where I want to get, this is what I want to get to. I think Jesse's might be more effective for this generation. Okay, so this is the thing. Now, if you say in a general sense, generation, meaning every player of this particular age group, maybe that's what Nate is saying, then you could argue Pochettino's approach is maybe not the right thing. I actually think that in terms of the maturation, and there are obviously players coming in and out and new players who have been added since Pochettino took over and those kind of things. But if you talk about the general core of the U.S. men's national team, the ones who maybe didn't have enough accountability, the ones who maybe felt too comfortable in their position, and Pochettino had to figure out how to send a message that, no, you have to earn your spot. But that group, the one that went to the World Cup in 2022, maybe they needed a little bit more of the Greg Berhalter, Jesse Marsh style of management. But now, a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little less sensitive, Pochettino's way is the right way. Because now it requires you to be accountable. Now it requires you to show up every camp. Now you are not going to be able to skate on a relationship that no longer exists because Greg Berhalter is no longer the coach. And that might be rationalizing on my part, right? Because I don't think Berhalter did a bad job those first 4 years. I don't think he should have gotten a second contract. I think that whole thing was a disaster, but I don't have a problem with what he did to build this team to where it was when the World Cup ended in 2022. You can argue about them getting out-coached or being gassed against the Dutch. Those are in-game things that are certainly worthy of criticism. But in terms of the overall culture, I really didn't have a problem with it. But now here we are. It's pretty clear this group needed a wake-up call, and Pochettino is delivering it. But is Marsh wrong with the way he's doing Canada, Rob?
No, I don't think Marsh is wrong. I think coaching is one of those jobs where you can't make everyone happy. You're picking people over other people. You're making decisions for other people's lives and professional livelihoods, essentially. But I do like your point that the arm around the shoulder being in their lives was probably more important in the previous cycle when almost the entire team were youngsters and they were just getting their legs as professional soccer players. But now he's taken a more, stern and strictly professional approach to it. And he's ruffled the feathers of those folks that you say might have been comfortable. Some of the big stars, wanted to take time out, and they kind of had to earn their way back in. Other players, that always were a lock to get a call, weren't getting picked. And it seems like there's enough time, he's dealing with a kind of a shorter runway into the World Cup, but it does seem like injuries, notwithstanding, that all those players could potentially have the time to make good and come back to the team. But yeah. I think that Jesse Marsh's approach might burn some folks out. It's like, man, all right, I get it. You care about me, but you don't have to fly all the way across the world to be next to me. But
you're saying it's smothering. It's a little smothering.
It could be. Like I said, you can't please everybody. It could be like, thanks. A call would have been enough, like to say, like, hey, thinking about you going through a tough time. But like, why are you like at my house now, boss?
I definitely think, and this is interesting for Bernardo, right? So now it feels like you're almost obligated to call up Chaunier because why did you go to Switzerland if you're not going to call the guy up?
Right.
You got a roster. If he's healthy and he's playing and he's getting minutes with his club, and then you don't call him up, but you went over and flew over. I mean, maybe that.
The example. Okay, so use Gio Reyna as an example. Someone that's on the outside looking in, he's having a tough time, Berhalter goes and visited him and then doesn't, call him up later on or switch that name for Pochettino. But at the same time, Gio or any other player that's on the outside looking in, they didn't get the call. You're like, I need to get better, so I get the call. You probably don't need all the access. He's basically in that press conference saying like, you just don't know what you're doing then if you don't know why you didn't get the call. I think as professionals, you got to know how to get better.
Well,
and
look,
if you're not that aware of your own game, then you're not in the
This
conversation.
is probably not the right framing exactly, but it definitely feels like one is more of an old school approach and one is a more of a new agey approach, right? And again, Berhalter was all wrapped up in this leadership culture. He's taking lunches with CEOs to talk about how to lead men and all this stuff. And I always thought it was pretty ridiculous. I always thought it was making way more complicated a thing that is ultimately pretty simple at the end of the day. And you justify yourself, particularly when you're in a national team job and you have a lot of time on your hands, you justify yourself by diving into all of these like philosophies on leadership and stuff. And I don't know that that's what Jesse is doing necessarily, but there definitely feels like that. Like you're almost keeping yourself busy because otherwise, what are you doing? Like we as human beings.
Is he the nosy neighbor then? Is he the nosy neighbor?
I just think it's a matter of just if you don't Jesse Marsh is the kind of guy who wants to be active because if he doesn't feel active, it's like he's not worth anything or he's not doing his job. So what is the job? Where's the job end? For Jesse Marsh, the job includes flying to Zurich to see Mathieu Chonier. For Mauricio Pochettino, it does not involve any of that. In fact, he believes the job is to leave the players alone while they're in their club team, and then when it's time to call them up, look at where they are in their club and call them up. And that's what the national team is supposed to be. And remember that this is much more of a cultural divide because Pochettino it's not just old school, it's South American, right? The culture of South America is much more like what Pochettino is doing than what, than a modern approach where you're putting your arm around a shoulder. And again, maybe I'm just more inclined to that kind of, there's a divide between coaches and players. There is an accountability that comes from being asked by your coach to play well enough to demand a spot in the team that I don't ever recall. I mean, I didn't play high school sports, Rob, but I don't ever recall going to my coach and like having a deep, heartfelt conversation over my playing time. I was just angry I wasn't playing and then realized that if I wanted to play, I have to go and prove to the coach I deserve to play. Right. I don't know. I mean, again, that's not what Chonier is doing. He's not whining about his playing time to Marsh. Marsh is taking the step to go and have that conversation. Again, I don't know that it's bad. I just prefer what Pochettino is doing.
I think that also the approach that Marsh is taking it's probably tough to step back when the inevitable end when he leaves the job. Like, where do you leave those relationships? Or is Poch's, cut and dry, non-communication an indication that he's not going to be around for long-term relationships? And, we're doing the job now until the World Cup, and then I'm gone. And building those long-term relationships is a waste of time if you're not going to be in a long-term working relationship.
We also have to be very careful about analyzing the way a culture operates based on the results and then kind of, reverse engineering. Oh, the U.S. wasn't very good because Berhalter had this culture, or the U.S. was losing games and failing at points because the U.S. had this culture. While that's possible, I don't know that you can prove that, right? So then it's like, okay, well, do we have to like go to the opposite end of the spectrum? And I'm not sure Pochettino was hired for that reason, but he goes to the opposite end of the spectrum. If they win, people are going to say, oh, it's because of the culture change. But again, it's kind of not a thing you can actually prove. But I definitely think it's reasonable to believe that when you are acting the way that Marsh is, or the way that Berhalter did, you do create this sense among the players that, oh, I'm his guy. And he's going to call me up all the time. And I'm just in this team now. I've made this team and I'm done making this team. And I don't have to think about making this team anymore. And that's clearly a message Pochettino doesn't want to send. And absolutely, that's okay. And you should be, I think competition does make players better. And it does force players to raise their game if they want to be in a World Cup team, for example. So here we go.
Here we go. Indeed. Thank you, everyone who's chimed into the show today. I had a funny one here this morning on Friday. At least I didn't call you Davis Jason or was it?
I think it was Javis is what you called me.
Javis, classic
Yeah.
Javis behavior there. But I do want to shout out this week's new MK Ultras once again: Victor Castro Lopez, Andy Arriaga, Mark DeBlois, Eric Wilkerson, and just this morning at the beginning of the show, Thomas Dupree. Thank you for joining into the movement. Thank you for assisting us in dotting the map and being right along here for the fun here on Morning Kick Around.
Thank you very much. Always incredible to have new members joining to continue to dot the map and grow the community is what we live for. It's what we live for.
Yeah, we got a fun weekend ahead. We got some national team games, U20 games, and some great guests next week, and some big videos coming out for us too. We got some announcements, videos, some guests, great stuff on next week's show. Thank you everyone for tuning in, all your comments, and good old Javis, Dason, and Covert Rur, according to the chat. I like that. Chris Sow, nailing it. Thanks as always. Kick the line button, all that stuff. We'll see you next time. Until Monday, enjoy your soccer.